Now I gotta say it, if there's a single unit in this game that I think defines the word badass, I think it's gotta be Gladiators, man. Like, visually, these guys are, I think, the coolest looking unit in the game by far. Parthian Royal Cataphracts are up there, and there are a couple of units. I mean, a lot of the units in this game look great. But the level of detail on these guys, and I mean, I don't think historically the Romans ever fielded an army of gladiators. Certainly not an army, or even like divisions of their legions as gladiators. I don't think they were fielded on an actual battlefield, but they look awesome, and I'm really glad they got added in the game because they're one of my favorite units. And I think that it's really hard to make them your complete core as Rome. I think that without backup from another heavy infantry unit like Praetorian Guard, it might be hard. But I think this is about as close to a gladiator core as you can possibly get. This was another 2v2 that I played with AO yesterday. There's 5 gladiators, 3 gladiator spearmen, a triarii, 4 auxiliary Balearic slingers. I wish one day God would give me the power to pronounce that word correctly. 3 Praetorian Guard, and then 2 Praetorian Cavalry and a General's Bodyguard. Looking at my friend AO, I believe it is 6 Thorax Pikemen, some Eastern Slingers, Indian War Elephants, Camel Archers, and some Agema Cavalry, and I think he has Azat Knights as well, with some Scythe Chariots. Let's get into it. So, this battle was fought against Cloud and Jump Cake, I think were their names. I know Cloud wasn't his entire name. He was playing Carthage. He was a subscriber. It was very nice. So I know that I'm forgetting half of his name, but thank you very much for being a good sport and for the games. I really enjoyed playing with you. You're a good guy. He has 5 African pikemen, 4 auxiliary Balearic slingers, some late Carthaginian hoplites, and some elephants, and I believe he has a couple noble cavalry as well. Looking at Carthage's setup, I really like it in terms of the balance. I think it's a very well balanced army, and it's pretty good. The only problem is that I think African pikemen are trash. For a pike unit, I think African pikemen are one of the worst in the game. They just don't. They have high melee attack actually, which is interesting. I hadn't looked at that before, but I just see them get completely destroyed by most sword infantry. I just don't think they're particularly good. So if I was him, I would skip the African pikemen and get some Sacred Band. I think Hull hoplite armies with maybe Libyan infantry flanking force is maybe a better option. And the elephants are a good choice, although he didn't go war elephants. He just decided to go for the African elephants. I like the war elephants. I just think their stats are a little bit better. Overall, I think his army is pretty solid, but yeah, just like I said, I think the Sacred Band, the elite infantry is very important to have as your core, just so they can keep your men in the fight longer. They do have the morale boost for your own men, so it's a very nice touch that I think having only 1 Sacred Band would have been very helpful for him, I think. The other player is playing as Athens. He has a hoplite core, as is to be expected, but he also does have some thorax swordsmen, which don't get seen very often in multiplayer. I do think they're an okay unit. If you're going to use them as a flanking force, I think that's a pretty solid choice. Maybe get 2 or 3 to flank around once your hoplites have engaged. I don't think as the middle of your line, though, they're very effective. They just rout very easily, and their melee defense leaves a little bit to be desired, so not the best unit for a core, but yeah, certainly as a flanking force, I think that could be a solid choice. We are going to have some trouble in this skirmish fight. The Balearic slingers are always hard to deal with. And actually, I'm not sure, do auxiliary Balearic slingers have different stats? It's missile damage 24, range 150. No, they look like they have the exact same stats. So, we did have some troubles in the skirmish battle. What I wanted to have AO do was run his Eastern slingers, because these are crap slingers, they're not going to do much anyway. I wanted him to meat shield for me, so he's going to run forward first and kind of absorb the first couple volleys so I can get my slingers in position. But Cloud is actually going to do something very interesting a little bit later in the skirmish fight that really helped him a lot. And I've actually never tried doing this before, but what he's going to do is over on this side. He's going to put one of his late Carthaginian hoplites directly in front of the slingers so that the shield and the higher armor of these units kind of absorbs the shots, and it really protects his slingers pretty well. And we start having some troubles killing them, actually, because you can see the shields are getting raised here. They're kind of blocking the shots on the slingers, and he's not going to take that many losses. It was an interesting tactic, and I think it was really well done by him, actually, and it's something that I'm probably going to start incorporating into my game when I do decide to bring slingers, which honestly isn't very often, because they have been, foot archers and slingers have been nerfed so much recently. I do think slingers can still be viable, but their kill rates just certainly weren't as high as they were before patch 4 and 5, I think. So the next volleys are coming in. I have 3 units targeted on this one, and I've only killed 10 so far. So yeah, these pikemen are doing a pretty decent job, actually, of shielding the fire. Athens, fortunately, did not bring any Rhodian slingers. I think that would have made this battle even more difficult if he had brought slingers. He brought peltas, and he can't really skirmish with them. So that's going to make it harder for them to win the skirmish fight, because overall, even though we are having some trouble in the skirmish fight, these Balearic slingers aren't going to be able to beat 7 of ours. Like, it's just not going to happen. And Athens can't really do a whole lot. He didn't bring a lot of cavalry, which... In fact, did he bring any? No. Interesting. Athens didn't bring any cavalry. He only has hoplites and thorax swordsmen. So he has a very heavy infantry corps, obviously. But he can't really back up his teammate in the cav fight, and that's actually probably going to be an issue for them. Ao is flanking with his Azat Knights. I think it was pretty interesting that he didn't bring Hellenic Cataphracts. I think it's it is the best cav unit for that faction. So certainly you can make it work with the Agema Cavalry. These are still really good shot cav with 76 charge bonus. But I think the Hellenic Cataphracts are kind of a staple of the Seleucid army, and certainly if I was playing as them, I would always be bringing some Hellenic Cataphracts. I do think it's pretty interesting that blood is pouring out of men who are getting hit by slings. I realize that getting hit in the face with a rock would kill you, but not sure how bloody it would make. So we're going to go in for this engagement here. Athens, I think, plays too passively here. You're going to see him kind of hang out right here. And they weren't friends, so certainly the coordination there might have not been the best. But he's not really going to commit his forces besides the peltas. And all I'm going to do is chase them off with some of the Gladiator spearmen. And then quickly, I'm going to shift my Praetorian Guard all the way around behind the pikes around here. I didn't want to fight him head on, obviously, and if I had tried to flank around this way, in between this gap, then his hoplites would have just collapsed in on me, and my Praetorian Guard would have died. So what I'm going to do is instead keep my spears on this side, just to hold down his hoplites if he decides to engage, and then shift my Gladiators all the way around. And these Gladiators are going to make a huge impact on this game, and I do think that I handled them pretty well, and we'll see what I do with them a little bit later. But the Praetorian Guard, obviously crazy good heavy infantry unit, going to engage in melee. Unfortunately, Ao's Indian Armored Elephants were sent unsupported into hoplites. Not a good idea. He's already lost 3 or 4 of his elephants, which is a huge deal on a unit that costs 1,200 talents, that has 930 health. You probably shouldn't be losing that many, so definitely a mistake to send them into hoplites like that. My Praetorian Guard have hit the edge here, and will collapse in on these pikemen from the rear. Very easy fight for me to clean up at this point. Oh, these are hoplites, not pikemen, but regardless, they will die very, very easily. I'll do my best to see if I can get some decapitations. Meanwhile, Athens still hasn't really committed his forces, which is just a mistake. I mean, I was able to pull away, and you can see that's what I'm doing here. Like, I kind of baited him into an attack and then pulled away. But he needs to get his men into melee. And if he doesn't, Carthage is going to rout just too soon. So yeah, again, Praetorian Guard into the rear of the pikemen. He can't turn them around because they will completely lose their formation. and AO was smart enough to pull his guys out of the fight from the front. He did lose a pretty decent amount of men, actually. Let's see where my gladiators are committed. I did send one Praetorian Guard to rout these elephants off the field, and then collapse in on the rest of these hoplites. And my gladiators have finally entered melee. Oh yes. Oh yes. That was an arm. So yeah, Carthage is mostly off the field at this point, and that was because I think that me and AO had just better coordination than Athens and Carthage did. What it means is that we're essentially going to have a 2v1 situation here against Athens, and the great thing about Gladiators, like I've said, Roman infantry always has extremely high maneuverability and killing power, 68 melee attack, and very fast speed as well. Actually, I think they're almost as fast as archers. They're not classified as very heavy melee infantry, so they have faster move speed as well. And so that's why when you see me play Rome, I'm always using them as a flanking force. I don't use them as the middle of my line because they can't beat a lot of units in a head-on-head fight. But as a flanking force with that killing power, if you get a rear charge off with them, you're going to be able to rout units. I committed these gladiators too early, I think, and so against these thorax swordsmen, they're going to have some trouble. And yeah, they're going to rout off the field, which was a mistake on my part. But these gladiators, I will be able to commit against these ranged units, and actually the Salutant side chariots are coming in from the rear too, so if he doesn't... Actually, I noticed that the Athens player committed his hoplites to kind of hold off side chariots and Azat knights that were left over on the side of the field, which was definitely a mistake. I don't think that he needed to commit that many infantry troops to that side of the field, and we're definitely going to be able to punish him here. I'm trying to find a place where my gladiators are fighting. I think right here, yeah, they're going to be able to get a fight here. One thing, though, is that Peltas are going to destroy the gladiators extremely easily. They have really low armor, 20 armor. So, yeah, just a couple volleys from Peltas got them down to about a third strength, which is a pretty big deal, actually. There we go. Stab him. I really want to find... Oh, his arm just got cut off. I do want to find a decapitation, though. That should happen. Get him. Huh. We might not be able to get it, unfortunately. Side chariots rode through the Balearic slingers there, took them down quite a lot. And hammer and anvil, which is how these guys should be used, ideally, gonna do a lot of damage into the rear of these thorax hoplites. That killed about... Wow. That killed about 60 men off the charge. So they're routed off the field now. Gladiators getting into melee with these Peltas. And getting hit in the head. That hurt. Again, not the best color commentary, more focused on the cinematics at the moment. I do enjoy the blood pack though, I think it's pretty awesome. It's a nice addition to the game if you want to pay the money. So just cleaning up the last couple of units for the Athenians at the moment. I'm actually not sure that you can get a decapitation on spear units. I know that you can sword to sword. I was saying something about that. Someone was saying that against spear units, sword units usually cut off their arm and then stab them in the stomach, and that's like the killing blood pack blow that they'll do. And then sword infantry versus sword infantry, you'll usually see the decapitations, and then they certainly they have like different kinds of killing animations depending on what kind of unit you're fighting. Regardless though, I thought that was a pretty good use of the gladiators. I don't like using them as my main force, like I said. I don't think they have the armor, defense, or like staying power to fight as your main line. But as a large flanking force, I think they're very, very strong. And that's why you'll pretty much always see me using gladiators as a Roman faction. Hope you guys enjoyed the bloodiness. Hope you guys enjoyed the replay. Be bringing you more content soon. I'll talk to you later. Indie Pride out.